James had never expected his journey to take him to such a place. The air was thick with tension as he walked down the long, dark corridor. Strange lights flickered above him, casting eerie shadows on the cold, metallic walls. He had been summoned to meet the alien queen, the ruler of an empire that stretched across galaxies. As a human, he was a rare visitor in her court, and the queen had made it clear that she had special plans for him. The doors to the throne room opened with a low hiss, and James stepped inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, a wave of oppressive energy hit him. The queen's presence filled the room. She was tall and regal, her skin shimmering like starlight. Her eyes were cold and calculating, like the universe itself had carved them from dark matter. Sitting on her massive throne, she looked down at him with a mix of curiosity and anger. Human. Her voice echoed through the vast chamber, as cold as the void of space itself. "Why won't you love my daughter?" The words struck James like a thunderbolt. He froze for a moment, unsure of how to react. He had never met the queen's daughter, so he had no idea what she was talking about. The tension in the room grew, and the air felt like it was closing in on him. The queen's gaze was intense, unblinking, her eyes drilling into his soul. "Answer me," she commanded, her voice sharp, slicing through the silence. James swallowed hard, trying to gather his thoughts. I don't understand," he stammered. "I've never met your daughter." The queen leaned forward, her eyes narrowing with fury. "You are lying," she hissed. "I know you've seen her. You cannot resist her beauty, but you choose to reject her. Why?" James tried to calm his racing heart, his mind struggling to make sense of the situation. Why was the queen so furious? He hadn't done anything wrong. He had only just arrived on this planet, and the idea of a beautiful alien princess was far from his mind. Yet here he was, standing before the most powerful being in the universe, accused of something he couldn't even comprehend. The queen's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, her words dripping with venom. "My daughter is perfect. She is everything the universe could ever want. Why would you, a mere human, reject her?" The weight of her words hit him like a physical blow. He had no answer. How could he explain something he didn't understand? He had no idea who this alien princess was, let alone why the queen thought he would fall in love with her. He had seen countless creatures during his travels, but nothing had ever moved him in that way. But the queen wasn't waiting for an answer anymore. She rose from her throne, her movement graceful and terrifying. "You will learn," she said coldly, her voice full of menace. "You will learn why you should love my daughter, human, and you will answer for your rejection." James felt a chill run down his spine. The confrontation had just begun, and he had no idea where it would lead. But one thing was clear: his life had just taken an unexpected turn, and he wasn't sure if he would survive the storm that was coming. James stood frozen in the heart of the throne room, the weight of the queen's gaze pressing down on him. His mind raced, trying to piece together the strange situation he had found himself in. The queen, ruler of an empire beyond the stars, was furious with him. But he had done nothing to deserve her wrath. She had accused him of rejecting her daughter, a claim that didn't make sense. He had never even met the princess, yet here he was, facing the full fury of a powerful alien queen. Her voice broke through the silence again, sending a shiver down his spine. "Do you think yourself so special, human? You think you can stand before me and deny my daughter's beauty without consequence?" James swallowed, trying to steady his breath. "I never meant to offend you, your majesty," he said, his voice steady but his heart pounding in his chest. "I don't understand. I've never met your daughter. How can I reject someone I've never even seen?" The queen's eyes narrowed, her expression a mixture of disbelief and disdain. "Do not lie to me, human," she hissed, her voice like ice. "I know what you have seen. She is everywhere, and yet you claim not to have noticed. Are you too blind to see her?" James tried to make sense of her words, but nothing was adding up. He had spent his entire life traveling through space, meeting strange creatures and alien races, but never had he encountered a being so powerful, so terrifying, as this alien queen. He felt small and insignificant in her presence, as if he were nothing more than a speck in the vast universe. "She is perfect," the queen continued, her voice softer now, but still laced with fury. "My daughter's beauty is unmatched, even by the standards of your humankind. You, a mere human, stand before me and claim not to have noticed. You claim not to have been captivated by her." The room seemed to grow colder as the Queen's words sank in. She was right about one thing. James had seen beautiful beings before, but nothing like what the Queen described. Her daughter, the alien princess, was a creature of pure power, a being that could easily take anyone's breath away. Yet, for some reason, James had not been moved. He had resisted the pull that others had succumbed to. But why? Was there something wrong with him? Was he immune to the princess's charm? Or was he simply too scared to acknowledge what lay before him? The Queen's piercing eyes searched his face, waiting for an answer. "You do not understand the gravity of this moment, do you?" she said quietly. "You are not just rejecting my daughter, you are rejecting me. And that is something I will not tolerate." James felt a chill run through him, realizing the weight of her words. This wasn't just about the princess. This was about something far more dangerous, his very survival. The Queen was not just testing him. She was demanding obedience, and the consequences of defying her would be severe. He felt the ground shift beneath his feet, as if the entire universe was shifting in response to the Queen's anger. I didn't mean to reject her," he said, his voice trembling for the first time. I just didn't know." The Queen's lips curled into a smile, one that was both terrifying and oddly serene. "You will learn, human," she said, her tone low and ominous. "You will learn what happens when you refuse the beauty and power of my daughter, and you will learn that there are consequences when you defy an empire." The room fell into silence, the tension between them almost unbearable. James knew that whatever came next would change everything. The story he thought he was living had just taken an unexpected turn. Now, he had to find out if he would survive the storm that was brewing, or if he would become just another pawn in a game far larger than he could have ever imagined. James couldn't shake the feeling that he was being drawn deeper into something he couldn't control. The alien Queen's words echoed in his mind, each syllable laced with an undeniable authority. "You will learn." The weight of that simple sentence felt like a chain, binding him to an unknown fate. The Queen had made it clear that he was to meet her daughter, the princess, the source of the Queen's fury. Despite his confusion and fear, James knew this was an opportunity, one that would either answer his questions or bury him deeper in this alien world. He had no choice but to face the princess. He followed the guards down a narrow corridor, their silent footsteps echoing in the cold air. The walls were lined with strange, glowing symbols that pulsed with a rhythmic energy. The further they walked, the more he felt the intensity of the alien world around him. There was something in the air here, an energy that seemed to pull at his thoughts, as if the very environment was alive. Finally, they stopped before a massive set of ornate doors. The guards stepped aside, bowing their heads in respect, and with a creak, the doors slowly opened. Inside, the room was nothing like anything James had ever seen. The walls were lined with glittering crystals, casting a soft glow across the room. In the center stood a tall, elegant figure. She was everything the Queen had described and more. The princess was unlike any being James had ever encountered. Her skin shimmered with an ethereal glow, almost translucent, as though it was carved from the very fabric of the stars. Her eyes, large and impossibly bright, shimmered like twin moons, filled with an emotion James couldn't place. Her long, flowing hair moved as though it had a life of its own. Weaving through the air like tendrils of smoke, she turned to face him, her expression unreadable, yet filled with an intensity that made James's heart race. For a moment, he simply stood there, captivated by her beauty. It was overwhelming. He had heard legends of alien princesses, but nothing had prepared him for this. But as the minutes ticked by, something strange began to happen. The beauty of the princess wasn't just skin deep. James could feel it in the very air, the gravitational pull of her presence. It wasn't just her physical appearance that was mesmerizing. There was something deeper, something that tugged at his very soul. The power emanating from her was unlike anything he had ever felt. She took a step toward him, her gaze never leaving his. As she moved closer, the air around him seemed to thicken, becoming heavier, more oppressive. James felt a strange sensation in his chest, as if his very heart were being drawn toward her. as though every fiber of his being was being pulled in her direction. The princess smiled, her lips curving in a way that made James's pulse quicken. "You have seen me, human," she said, her voice soft yet commanding, as though every word held an unseen power. "And yet, you do not seem to feel what others do. Why?" Her question hung in the air, and James was left standing, utterly confused. He couldn't deny the attraction he felt, but this wasn't just attraction, it was something more primal, more dangerous. He had never felt anything like this in his life. I don't understand," he managed to say, his voice betraying his confusion. You are beautiful, but it's more than that. I can't explain it." The princess's smile deepened, and she stepped closer still, her presence overwhelming. "You do not need to explain, human. You simply need to choose." For a moment, James didn't know what she meant, but as he looked into her eyes, something shifted. He realized that the choice she spoke of wasn't just about rejecting or accepting her beauty. It was about something far deeper, something he couldn't yet comprehend. And as he stood there, on the precipice of this unknown, he knew that his life was about to change forever. James could feel the weight of the princess's gaze even as she stepped back, her eyes never leaving his. There was an unspoken challenge in the air, something that tugged at his very core, urging him to understand what lay beneath her beauty, beneath the powerful aura that surrounded her. It wasn't just her physical perfection that seemed to haunt him, it was something else, something he couldn't quite grasp. For the first time in his life, he realized that he was standing before something far beyond his understanding. The princess wasn't just a being of beauty and power. There was an energy in her presence that seemed to warp reality itself, drawing everyone around her into her orbit. The way her hair flowed with no wind, the way her voice seemed to resonate inside his mind, it was as if she was an embodiment of something older than the universe itself. "You feel it, don't you?" Her voice broke through his thoughts, soft and smooth, but with an underlying sharpness. James blinked, startled by her words. "Feel what?" Her smile was almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down his spine. "The pull," she said, her eyes glinting with something that seemed both inviting and terrifying. "The force that draws you in. You think it's just my beauty, but it's more than that. You've felt it before, haven't you? The way the universe bends when I am near." He opened his mouth to protest, but the words died in his throat. He hadn't realized it until now, but she was right. It wasn't just her appearance, it was everything about her. Her presence alone seemed to stir something deep within him, an instinct he couldn't ignore. The energy in the room, the vibrations in the air, they all pointed to one undeniable truth. The princess was more than just a being of flesh and bone. She was a force, a living, breathing entity that commanded the universe itself. "You are special, human," the princess continued, stepping closer, her movements fluid and hypnotic. "I've seen what you're capable of. You don't fall like the others. They see me, and they fall to their knees, entranced by my power, by my beauty. But not you." She tilted her head, her eyes searching his face for a reaction. "Why?" James tried to speak, but his throat was dry. He didn't know how to explain it. He had never been immune to beauty or power. He had seen many things in his travels that would make most humans weak with desire. But there was something about the princess that felt different. He didn't know if it was because he could feel the underlying danger in her power, or if it was the fact that he wasn't falling for her the way everyone else did. But whatever it was, he knew it had nothing to do with her beauty alone. "You're right," he finally managed to say. "I don't know why I feel this way, but I'm not just resisting your beauty. There's something deeper about you. I feel it, but I don't know what it means." The princess studied him carefully, her expression unreadable. "You are stronger than I thought," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Most would have already surrendered to me. But you resist because you don't understand." Yet, a strange silence fell between them, and for the first time, James began to wonder if this was some kind of test, one he hadn't been prepared for. The princess wasn't just asking him to love her. She was challenging him, testing his resolve, and maybe even his very humanity. "I'm not like the others," James said, his voice steadying with newfound resolve. "And I'm not going to fall for you just because you want me to." The princess's lips curled into a smile, but this time, it wasn't one of amusement, it was one of understanding. "No, human. You're not like the others, and that's why you're here." The words hung in the air like a challenge, and James knew deep down that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey, a journey that would change him in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. The tension in the air thickened, as if the very fabric of reality was warping around James. He couldn't understand it. Everything about this encounter, this world, was pushing him into unknown territory. It wasn't just the princess or the queen. It was the overwhelming presence of this place, this empire. The forces at play here were bigger than he had imagined, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was part of a game far beyond his control. The princess didn't move. She stood before him, waiting, her eyes still fixed on his with that knowing intensity. It was as if she could see straight through him, peeling away his layers, exposing parts of himself he hadn't even acknowledged. James fought the urge to look away. He had to hold his ground. "I know you've been wondering why you're immune," she said suddenly, breaking the silence that had stretched on too long. Her voice was calm, like she had all the time in the universe, while James was left scrambling for his next breath. "Why you haven't fallen like the others. Why you've resisted me when every other man would have cowered." James's mind raced, his pulse quickening. Was this some sort of revelation? Something he hadn't been told before? "I don't know," he admitted, his voice hoarse. "I've felt that something's different about you, but I don't understand why." The princess's eyes glittered with something that could have been amusement, but there was something darker in her gaze. "You don't understand because you think you're just human," she said softly, stepping even closer to him. "But you're not, are you?" His heart skipped a beat. "What are you talking about?" She smiled, and for the first time, it didn't feel like a challenge. It felt like she was letting him in on a secret. "You've always known, haven't you, that you were different, that you weren't like everyone else. You're not just human, James. You have something within you that makes you special. That's why you resist me." The words hit him like a shockwave. His head spun as memories, fragments of his life he had long buried, flooded back to him. Strange dreams, cryptic messages he'd overheard as a child, the sensation of never truly fitting in. Could it be? Was he? You're not just a human. You're something more. You're connected to us," the princess whispered, her voice sending a shiver down his spine. "You've been chosen, James. Chosen to be a part of something much greater than you could ever imagine." James took a step back, his chest tightening. "Chosen for what?" His voice barely rose above a whisper, but the question hung in the air like a suffocating fog. The princess's smile grew wider, but there was a coldness to it now, as if she had just revealed a part of the story she wasn't ready to share. "To be the key," she said, her voice almost conspiratorial. "To unlock the power within this empire. To join with us in ways no human has before." It was as if the ground beneath him had shifted. The pieces of the puzzle that had felt scattered now seemed to be falling into place. But the picture that was emerging was one he wasn't ready to see. "The queen has been testing you," the princess continued. "You see, she's not just angry because you rejected me. She's angry because you are capable of resisting the pull of my power. You're capable of controlling it." James's mind reeled. What did all of this mean? He wasn't just some ordinary traveler anymore. He wasn't a pawn in some grand scheme. He had been chosen. But for what? What did the queen want from him? And why had his life, which had once felt so normal, been thrown into chaos? The princess stepped back, the darkness in her eyes deepening as if she had just revealed a secret that should never have been spoken aloud. "The queen has plans for you, James," she said quietly. "But you must choose now. Will you accept your place in this empire, or will you refuse?" James stood there, his thoughts a swirling mess of questions, doubts, and fears. The princess had given him the truth, but it was a truth that seemed too impossible to believe. And yet, deep inside him, he felt this connection to something much greater, something powerful. But as he looked into her eyes, he knew the truth would come at a price, and that price might be higher than he was willing to pay. James stood motionless, every part of him screaming to run, to escape this strange, alien world that had suddenly become far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. The princess's words echoed in his mind, each one twisting around him like an invisible chain, binding him to a fate he couldn't fully understand. He had never believed in destiny, never thought of himself as anything special. But now, as he stood before the princess, something inside him was starting to change. The truth was hard to ignore. He was different. But different in what way? The princess's eyes were still on him, watching his every movement with an intensity that made his skin prickle. He could feel the weight of her gaze pressing against him like a force of nature, urging him to make a decision. She was right, he had been chosen. But what did it mean to be chosen? To be part of something so vast and incomprehensible? "Do you understand now?" she asked, her voice soft, but cutting through the stillness of the room like a blade. "You can feel it, can't you? The power inside you. You've always had it, but now you see what it can do. What you can do." James swallowed hard. The power, the pull she spoke of, it was real. He had felt it ever since he'd stepped into the throne room. But there was more to it than that. He wasn't just being pulled toward her, toward this alien world. There was something deeper, something darker, something that could change the course of his entire existence. "Why me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why choose me?" The princess smiled, her lips curling in a way that was both reassuring and unsettling. "Because you are the one who resists," she replied, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You don't fall under my spell. You don't succumb to the power that has enslaved others. You are capable of controlling it, of mastering it." James shook his head. "I don't want to control anything. I don't even know what this power is." The princess's smile faltered, replaced by an expression of quiet understanding. "You will," she said softly. "In time, you will come to see the truth. The queen has been testing you, pushing you to the edge to see if you are worthy of this power. But now it is yours to claim. The question is, will you take it?" James's heart raced. The choice before him was overwhelming. He had always been just a man, nothing special, nothing extraordinary. But now, standing before the princess, the weight of the universe seemed to rest on his shoulders. He had no idea what it meant to control this power, what it would cost him. But he knew one thing for sure: turning away wasn't an option. The princess's gaze softened, her voice low but filled with certainty. "You cannot undo what has already begun. The power is in you now, James. The only question left is how you will wield it." James stood at the crossroads of his own fate, his mind swirling with the gravity of the decision before him. The princess's words lingered in his ears, heavier than any physical force. "The power is in you now. The question is how you will wield it." He felt it then, the pulse of energy inside him, thrumming beneath his skin, a power he hadn't asked for but couldn't deny. The princess was right, he wasn't the same man he had been when he first arrived in this alien world. He had been chosen, marked by a force greater than his understanding. But was it a gift or a curse? Was this power meant to make him stronger, or was it something that would eventually destroy him? As he stood before the princess, her eyes searching his face for any sign of hesitation, he couldn't shake the feeling that his every move was being watched by forces beyond the throne room. The queen had played her games, tested him, pushed him to this breaking point. And now, in this silent moment, James realized that he was no longer just a visitor in this strange empire. He was part of it. "You think you have a choice, human," the princess said, her voice both comforting and chilling, as if she could read his every thought. "But the truth is, the choice was made the moment you stepped into this room. You are bound to this power now, whether you accept it or not." Her words cut deep. He wanted to argue, to tell her that he hadn't chosen any of this, that he didn't want to be part of her empire, didn't want to be a pawn in her games. But deep down, he knew she was right. Whatever had happened here, whatever strange twist of fate had brought him to this moment, he could never go back to the life he had known. "I can't turn back, can I?" he asked, his voice quiet, almost resigned. The princess shook her head slowly, her gaze unwavering. "No, James, you cannot. You are part of something much larger now, something beyond your comprehension. But that doesn't mean you are powerless." The weight of her words pressed down on him, but strangely, they were not as suffocating as they should have been. There was a strange sense of peace in knowing that this was his path, that he wasn't walking alone. He had been given a choice, but it wasn't a simple one. His heart told him to fight against it, to resist. But the power inside him, the same power the princess had awakened, whispered a different truth. With a deep breath, James finally met her gaze, feeling something inside him shift. I don't know how to wield this power, he admitted, but I'll find a way. I have to. The princess's smile returned, softer now, filled with approval. Good, because the journey ahead will be unlike anything you've ever faced, and you will need every bit of strength you've got. As she stepped back, the room seemed to breathe with her, the air heavier, charged with an energy that hummed through James's veins. He wasn't just a human anymore. He was something else, something greater. And the universe, with all its dangers and wonders, was waiting for him to take the first step.